take a whack at these, all right? How's that sound? So, how about my refrigerator deal here, folks? Bought a fridge for $14.99. Had to put 15% down. That was a condition. Financed it for 3 years. Monthly payments of $40. Calculate my amount financed, finance charge, deferred payment price, and then last but not least, the APR. So, first things first. How much did I borrow? And how did you find that? All right, so we said down equals 0.15 times $14.99, and sorry, what was that number again?
That one came to $224.85.
$224.85. I apologize for the pennies. And so then amount financed is the $14.99 minus the $224.85, which is what you said,
$12.74.15.
$12.74.50.
$12.74.15. All right, cool. Not too bad. Now, finance charge. First off, what's finance charge again? Interest, right? Remember, if you go talk to someone about financing, they will only call it finance charge. It is your job to make them say the word interest while you're sitting inside of their office. That's your job, right? And you should laugh hilariously if you get them to do it. All right, so.
You're like the scene from Pulp Fiction. Say interest. I double talk to you.
All right, so how are we going to figure out what the finance charge is?
Amount of payments minus amount finance.
Amount of payments, my amount of finance. How much are my payments?
$40.
That'd be $40 times 36.
Times 36. 36 because?
12 times 3 years.
3 years, 36 months total. Minus the $12.74.15. How much interest was I going to pay?
$165.85.
165?
Yeah, $165.85.
165.85. There you go. And so deferred payment price, what does that represent again?
Actual cost.
That's what you pay.
Yeah, what you really paid for this item. So what am I really going to pay for this refrigerator?
1,440.
What was the price of it?
$14.99.
$14.99. You telling me I paid less than the actual price?
Or wait,
It should be $20.99 plus the $165.85.
Yeah. So one way of calculating deferred payment price is to take the price plus the interest, $165.85. So what is that?
$16.64.85.
How else can you get the total amount of money you paid for this?
Down payment plus total monthly
Down payment plus total monthly
payment.
payments, right? So you can do the $224.85 plus the $40 times 36 months to get you to the $1664.85. So just be careful with that one. Make sure you use one of the two correct formats for getting the actual cost, right? One is price plus interest, or down payment plus total monthly payments. One says show me the money, the other one says price plus extra, right? All right, and then last but not least, how do we calculate APR?
finance charge over amount finance times 11.
Finance charge divided by amount financed times 100, and then look up in table. The classic student mistake is to just calculate that number and then throw a percent sign at the end of it. That is not the way you do it. Okay? Please don't do that. That always makes me sad. So, what was my finance charge?
165.85.
165.85. How much did I borrow? 15.
Yes.
Multiply by 100. Always round this to 2 decimal places, folks, because that's what the table does. Yes, I hear you. So what does that equal to rounded to hundredths?
13.
Straight up 13?
I think so.
Really?
Anybody?
Did everybody get 13 when they did this?
I got 13.02.
13.02?
Yeah, I got 13.02.
No.
All right, now, it is not 13.02% APR. What do we do to find the APR? That's where you go to your tables. Get out your business math handbook and turn to the tables that are almost illegible. So it's page 37 and 38 and 39 and 40, well, wherever it starts, 38 through 42. Go to the row that represents the number of payments you're making. So how many payments were we making in this loan? 36. So on row 36, keep going to the right until you find the number that's closest to 13.02. Now, gotta get page 2. There we go. The number that's just less than it, 12.81. The number that's just larger than it, 13.23, right? Getting old. Don't have my cheaters on. So does everybody see where those 2 numbers came from on the tables? Okay.
What the hell page are you on?
39.
39. Oh, I'm on page 2.
Alright, everybody's got it? Now, you have to tell me which one of those is closer.
They're the same.
Same.
You go with the higher
Equal. In this case, then, you can pick whichever one you want. What I tend to tell students is that you are exactly in the middle. What do you do with something when you're exactly in the middle of it?
Round up.
Yeah, or you could say, if you were halfway between 4 and 5, where are you? 4.5, right? So if you're halfway between, what are those 2 percentages? 8 and 8.25, where are you? 8.125, right? What's halfway between 8 and 8 1/4? It's 8 1/8, which is 8.125. Honestly, though, folks, I am happy with either 8 or 8 1/4% here because each of them are equally as distant. All right? Between 8 and 8.25% because it is equally distant. Again, if you picked either one of them, I would have given you credit for it on this kind of a problem, okay? And if you actually wrote down 8.125%, I'd probably wind up giving you extra credit. Because then you actually took it a step further and said, if I'm really halfway between these 2 percentages and find the halfway percentage point, I would say, ooh, yes, good extra thought, okay? Again, though, this is very rare. Usually it's closer to one or the other, and you take it, all right? All right, again, though, please remember, the only time you use this teeny tiny little font table, the only time, is to calculate APR. That's the only time you use it. Use it for nothing else. If you're calculating monthly payments, you use a totally different table. Okay? Now, so, how about the next one? Bought a car for 21 grand. Apparently it was used. I put 3 down and financed for 4 years at 9%.
Did you say apparently it was used?
Well, 20. You can't buy a new car for 21,000 anymore. If you want it to be nice. And none of us would drive anything but a nice car, right? All right. So first off, how much did I finance?
18,000.
18. Yeah, this one was relatively straightforward, right? I told you I put 3 down, so oops, I'm blue. I borrowed 18 grand. All right. So how do you find the monthly payment? Folks, this is where you use table 14.2, or it's the table on page 45 in your business math handbook. Essentially the very last page. It's technically called the loan amortization table, which makes it sound really fancy, but it's just the table you use to calculate monthly payment. So whatever you want to do, maybe relabel that table to be monthly payment and say this is the table you use to calculate monthly payment. That's the idea. All right? Note that the monthly payment is per $1,000. So the idea is you have to take the amount financed, divided it by 1,000 times the table entry, and that will get you your monthly payment amount. It's just that calculation straight up, right? So we're going to take 18,000, divide by 1,000, and now what's our table entry for 9% for how many years was it?
48 months.
48 months. So 4 years.
24.77.
24.77. So what's 18 times 24.77? 445 and 86 cents. So not quite a $450 monthly payment to get this car, but pretty darn close. So, how much interest am I going to pay? And how'd you get that?
Did the monthly payment for 4 years.
445, 86, 48 months. And then what did you do? So you got, this is how much you actually pay. What's the finance charge? What's the interest?
Oh,
3,400.
yeah, 3,400.
What do I subtract to get that number though?
The amount of finance, yeah.
Non-finance. Thank you. Sorry, what was that number again? 3,000.
401.
101 and 28?
401.
Oh, 400. 3,401, 28.
Yeah.
So just a shade over $3,400 in interest. And so how much are we really paying for this car?
24,400.
Usually, it's the easiest way to calculate by adding the interest and the price. Usually. Not necessarily always, though. Sometimes you can find it easier by adding up the down payment plus the monthly payments. But this is the other type of problem that you can get from Chapter 14 that's not a credit card type of problem, right? Variations on the theme here. All right. Not too bad? This, folks, is actually a real ad that Best Buy ran 9 years ago now. The TV was probably smaller than it was now, so, whatever. But it's probably the same ad that they're probably running right now for a new TV if you want to go buy one. Right? So you can get one of those 72-inch TVs for $2,200 at Best Buy. And this is probably how much they're going to, the kind of financing they would give you. So you can either get 10.5% APR over 18 months, or it's same as cash if paid in 6 months. Did have to put 20% down no matter what. All right? So What's the difference in monthly payments between paying the 18-month financing versus the 6-month no financing? So how would you figure that out? How do you figure out what your 6-month payment's going to be, folks?
If you paid it off.
Yeah, got to pay it off in 6 months, then you don't pay any financing, so you got to pay it all off in 6 months. What do you have to do first, technically? Take off the 20%, right? Don't forget that technically you need to tell me how much you put down, right? So Best Buy's going to make you give them $4,400 up front to get it, okay? So how much do you finance?
760.
$1,760. So how are you going to spread that amount of money over 6 months? Divide by 6. Nice, simple, straightforward, right? So the 6-month payment, $1,760 over 6. How much is that going to be? $293.33. It'd be nice if you could pay the 3 repeating, but it's money. You got to run to the penny. That's the way it works, right? Now, what's going to be my payment for the 18-month? How am I going to do that? Myself some more room. How do we figure out 18 months at 10.5% APR? What am I going to do? Huh?
Finance divided by 1,000 times 2.
1760 divided by 1,000, and what's the 10.5% 18-month table entry?
60.2.
So how much are you paying if you're paying an 18-month payment? $106.11. Yeah. Okay. And there was a classic story that you often hear when you hear about people talking about financing, right? So if you're a Best Buy worker, you want them to take the financing, right? Because you want to earn the interest and the company makes money for nothing, right? That kind of business. And so how do you sell it to a customer? You sell it to them like this. Well, if you pay the 6-month payments, how much are you going to have to pay a month? $300 a month. But if you do the 18-month payment, how much are you going to pay a month? About $100. $100. Which would you rather pay? $100 or $300, Emily? And don't do any math. You're an American. You don't like math, right? Which is better when you're paying? $100 or $300? $100, right? Of course you're going to take the financing. I'll just start the financing paperwork for you while we're standing here. Because I'm a good Best Buy employee, right? Blah, 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 right? That's the way it works. Very classic, all right? So, unfortunately, of course, you guys do know some math. And so you do think about it a little bit and you say, oh, how much more does it cost me if I take the financing? How are you going to figure that out?
You take the 106, 11 times 18, would you?
Sure.
18 months.
Okay.
Here's my question.
We'll get there. I know exactly what you're going to answer. 1,909.98? 98, right?
Which rounded up to 99? Because it was 987, I thought.
I got
stopped
straight
at
up
98.
You did?
Yeah, stop straight at 98 because this is straight up 18. Did you put an extra 1 in there?
Okay, so my finger's a little fat.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. So now, how much do you pay if you pay the 6-month payments?
When we calculate, can I ask my question now?
Okay. When you calculate 293.33 times 6, what do you get?
That wasn't what I was going to say.
17.
Okay, sorry. Ask your question now. Sorry.
So I don't know if it makes a difference or not, but when we calculate like the total of what you end up paying, you throw that down payment back in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you would
That was my question.
you would add the 220 to both of them, right? Because you're
Well,
going to
yeah.
pay the down payment for either of them. So the difference
That's
between
why I
them
said it doesn't even.
yeah, doesn't really matter.
Probably 50.
$150 either way, right? So the difference equals $150. Basically, that's the interest that you're paying, right? Is $150 in interest if you take this 10.5% APR financing. And the way Best Buy goes, folks, Best Buy is really smooth. Or they're real hardcore dicks, one of the two.
That's good.
The way they do it, folks, is that the way this financing is set up is they say, that if you do not pay the full $1,760 in 6 months,
You get dinged.
you get dinged for $150 no matter what. Okay? Even if you pay in the 7th month, you owe the full $150 worth of interest. That's what the 10.5% financing works out to give you. Okay? And notice, if you pay $293.33 each month, how much do you wind up paying? 2 cents short. Does Best Buy give a crap about 2 cents? Oh, yes, they do. If you didn't remember on your last check to tack it up 2 cents and you owe 2 cents after the 6 months are over, guess how much you owe after that 6-month date? $150.02, and there is no way in hell that they will forgive that $150, folks. No chance. You can take them to small claims court, and small claims court will back them up. It's in the contract.
Now, what would be the ding for the other one, though? For the other one, they already paid the extra $150.
Oh yeah, you're spreading the $150 over.
Yeah, but if you miss one of
If
those
you-
things,
so if you miss the payment-
$150 on you.
Oh yeah, there's a ton of legal things that happen if you don't pay the full amount in the 18-month financing. Those are small print things that even I didn't read because I didn't want to know. I would assume it's really heinous, right? It probably means they can repo the entire TV from you. Even though you've paid everything but say 2 cents worth of the financing, they can repo the whole thing. Again, that's very Best Buy-like, if they wish.
So you have a Best Buy credit card?
Oh God, no. I don't even shop at Best Buy because this is exactly what they do. Right? I mean, I've seen this ad multiple times. First time I saw it was 9 years ago. I saw it again about 5 years ago. I saw it 2 years ago. I haven't seen it this year, but then I haven't looked either. So if you go to Best Buy, folks, look for this kind of an ad on a TV sale, right? One of those big, huge console TVs that are just, that you can't even fit in your doorway anymore. Yeah, it's classic. So again, just watch out for predatory financing in the real world because it really does happen. All right, so anyway, that's just a fun problem.
Would you put that on the test?
I could, but usually not. No.
Because it's too fun.
Well, it was fun for me, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so how about the Bill Gates one? So the problem, of course, with Bill Gates is that since he's been rich forever, he's never really needed to borrow any money, right? So what's his credit rating like if he's never established a credit process, right? Yeah, it's crap. His credit score is probably in the 400 or 500s because, yeah, he's got billions of dollars, but he's never borrowed a dime. So the bank's going to look at him and say, you're going to borrow money? Why don't you just buy the island in cash? And he's like, well, it's $17.5 million. I don't have it in cash. I mean, I got that much. Yeah, it's relatively cheap for him, but he only holds like $3 or $4 million in cash sitting around. Okay? The rest is invested, so he's earning interest on his interest on his interest, right? I mean, this is how rich people stay rich, folks. Their money is never sitting in a bank account that's earning nothing. it's sitting in an investment that's earning between 6 and 8% always. And it's compounded monthly or at worst quarterly, right? And so they're $5 million that's sitting in an account earning 6%. I mean, think about that. What's 6% of $5 million? Yeah, it's more than any of us make in a year, right? So, enough said. This is why Bill Gates has crappy credit rating and why he's going to have to pay a 12% APR.
He paid more than that. He paid more than that percent and he had crap.
Well, and plus the bank's probably just going, screw you, Bill Gates.
I'm sure his credit rating's actually like through the roof, so I'm sure he has some sort of stuff throughout his entire life that's been giving credit that he hasn't had 100% money to put through.
No, I agree. I agree.
Credit card just because of a credit card, you know, kind of thing.
But if the bank can look at his credit rating and say it's not good enough, it can give him a 12% APR.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay. So, folks, what are his monthly payments going to be? $17.5 million. It's a small item. The big ones are hundreds of millions, right? This is just a small one.
Oh, I'm sure.
And it's right next to one that he already owns, so, he's just consolidating.
Is it 150,000?
Well, I don't know. Let's figure it out.
That sounds like a really big number, but I mean,
Well, first off,
17.5 million is a really big number, so.
what's his amount financed, right? We got to do all the numbers first, right?
Why don't you just take 17.5 million times 9.9?
Hey, great idea. All right. So,
Where are you getting the 0.9 from?
Because that's how much you'll
90%
owe.
left.
See, he's probably, instead of putting 10% and then subtracting, just go 90%, and that'll give you the exact total of what he's.
so if he's paying 10%, he's borrowing 90%. 90%. What is 17.5 million times 0.9?
I get 15,750,000.
You need to give us more room.
It's just
You can take 17.5 and multiply by 0.9 and get 15.75. Just realize it's $15.75 million, right? The M is still there. Okay?
Oh, I typed it in the finance was on. Forget it.
All right, so how do we get, now that we have his amount financed, what's his monthly payment? Now you might have to put some zeros in there, folks, right? Because what do we have to do with 15,750,000?
1,000. Then multiply by the cable, is that correct?
Divide by 1,000, and then multiply by his table. What's the table value for 5 years at 12%?
22.2.
What was that?
22.24.
22.24.
Screw this monthly payment.
Oh, man. 350,000?
I thought my car payment was a lot.
Isn't that fun?
What a small little world I live
Sorry, what did you say the number was again?
350,280.
in. Yeah.
350,280.
350,000.
When you start getting older, the hearing starts to go, and
What?
exactly.
I got that one. Yeah.
So note, folks, his monthly payment to buy his island is more than any of us make in a year. Unless some of you are, independently wealthy and I don't know about it. Don't tell me, I don't want to know.
Sorry.
Or if you are, please do tell me so I can start begging.
bribing.
Well, bribing wouldn't work if they're making 350,000.
Well, there's other stuff you
I
have.
would
There's
get
money. It's called grades.
Folks, if you had this much money to spend on grades, I'm for sale.
Sold.
Yeah, right. I need that.
If you need an A for 350,000, I can sell one. Not a problem. I think that'll pay for me getting fired. Exactly. All right. So what is
that'll
this?
be the last grade you ever give.
What is the total cost of his island going to be then?
Just multiply that.
Is it
Monthly times 60.
350,280 times 60. That's how much he pays in monthly payments. What else did he pay?
It's down.
His down payment. What was his down payment?
No, I'm probably
The rest of
Dang, well now I forgot. My mom's putting it back in.
Oh,
2.2.
17
Yeah, 1.75 million plus 1,750,000, right? Don't forget the down payment, right? So this is monthly payments. This is down payment. Since we didn't calculate the interest in this particular problem, folks, this is the only way we can calculate it. We would have to calculate what the finance charge is to do with the other method, but I didn't ask for that, right? And that's very possible sort of scenario that you might see happening on the test. One question where I don't ask for the finance charge, one question where I do. Both of them I ask for what was the deferred payment amount, right? So you have to be able to kind of either do it both ways or remember, oh shoot, he didn't ask for it, but I still need to do it, all right? Either way. So how much did you wind up paying? 800? Sweet. There's your price, folks. If you want to buy a medium to small sized island, total cost $22,766,000.
Almost 2.3. Almost 2.3.
Well, you gotta remember, he didn't have good credit. Maybe one of us has better credit than that. We can pay a little less.
That's true.
Pay back for 20 million.
Yeah, you do it for 20 million. Okay. Anyways, that's just a fun problem because the numbers are so big. And again, remember, folks, that I want you to be able to work with big numbers. So, might there be a question on the test that has numbers up there in the 20 to 30 millions?
Probably not.
Yes.
It's a difficult
Potentially.
thing with the smaller numbers than this time by
All right, so the other side of chapter 14 was credit cards.
This is horrible.
What? It's awesome.
This is my least favorite part of the whole thing.
This is so awesome. It's awesome.
It's easy, it's just very long.
It can be mildly tedious. That part I will agree with you on. All right? So, what we need, though, for our table, right? We need to have dollars and we need to have days. All right? And technically you need to have one more row than you have rows that you're working with, right? Dollars, days. So what's the first dollar amount in my average daily balance calculation? 400, because I carried over a balance of $400. How many days or how many times does that number repeat?
2.
2. Why 2?
12 minus 10 is 2.
12 minus 10 is 2, or it's the 10th and the 11th, right? Because on the 12th, we actually did something different. So on the 12th, what happened? We have gas. So what is the next number? 455. Please do not forget that you add the numbers while you go. All right? So that's one of the things that I check for, is to make sure that you're adding while you're going. The standard student mistake is to just use the numbers without adding because you forgot. All right? That'll cost you 4 or 5 points on this question. All right? Now, how many days does that 455 repeat?
Would that be 0? Or would that be 1 day? Oh, no, we did 4.
4. Because it goes from the 12th to the 16th, or the 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th. And then the 16th, something new happens. What happens on the 16th?
And you go to the bar.
Dinner and bar, they kind of go together. Notice which costs more.
True.
That's super accurate, yeah.
It is, isn't it?
And
She
you
must
probably
have
got
said
2
you are.
drinks.
You gotta drink your problems away sometimes.
No, that was like 3 drinks.
Yeah, true. Exactly. That's the sad part about it.
I'd
Alright,
be there
so
for a little while.
what are we going to do with the fact that these numbers are both on the 16th?
So you just
Add
add
them
them
together.
Add them together. What's 25 and 45? 70. So what's my next number? 525. Why 9 days?
25 minus 16.
Yeah. And note that that process always works, folks, right? From the 25th to the 16th is 9 days. 25 minus 16. You count the 16th, you do not count the 25th. So you can just subtract those two numbers. What's my next number? It's a payment. What do you do with payments? Subtract, right? Because that's actually a debit instead of a credit. So what's my next number? 325, right. How many days did that number repeat? 3. What's my next number?
40.
365.
Add that to the 325, 365. How many days does that one go?
That's when it's screwed me up.
How many days half September?
31. 30.
If you're not sure, that's what the last page of the tables are for, right? 5, right? 28, 29, 30, 1st, and 2nd. Don't count the 3rd, because that's where something new happened, the number changed, right? Note, folks, if you went to the table in the back of, if you went to the Julian calendar and did October 3rd minus September 28th, it will actually be 5. It actually works. The same thing we were doing before, taking the dates and subtracting them to figure out how many days between. It's okay. Last but not least, though, what's our final number?
That's some expensive ass ice cream.
It was for a party. It was an ice cream cake.
Okay, if it was ice cream cake, then it's fine.
Some days.
400. And how many days for this one?
It's one.
No, gotta put it to 10.
How many days are in the billing cycle, folks?
30.
30. How many days have I used?
30, exactly 30.
23.
23. So how many days in the last one? 7. So the key to that last one is that it always has to add up to the number of days. Don't overthink it and try and say, well, it's always 1 month. It's not always 1 month, right? It's the number of days in the billing cycle. If that happens to be the number of days in the month, great. Then it was coincidental. Do not be surprised when it will not be exactly 1 month, though. All right? Now, you have the table built. How do you use it?
That's really good.
So, what do these numbers mean? What does 400 with a 2 after it mean?
You multiply it by it.
You have 2 400s. You have 4 455s. You have 9 525s. You're averaging 30 days, 30 numbers worth of data, right? It's the average daily balance for 30 days. Therefore, you need to have the balance at the end of each day for 30 days. This is just telling you what the balance was at the end of each of those days.
So you multiply them together, add them all up, and then divide by 30.
There you
Got
go.
it.
That's exactly how you do it. Because, again, it's because there are 2 400s and 4 455s, and you need to average all of those numbers together. Right?
I hate to see my credit card like that. Oh my gosh.
I would love to see my credit card like this. If I only had a $400 credit card statement, I'd be happy.
That's where mine's at right now.
All right, so
Yeah, mine's about there.
Then you pay it off.
You're me.
the average daily balance, 2 times 400 plus 4 times 455 plus, what was that next number?
Oh, I'm
9 times 525? 3 times 325 plus 5 times 365 plus 7 times 400, whatever that number is, divide by 30 to get your average daily balance.
You got 431.50.
Is it a nice number?
Wow,
Is that what everybody else got?
Give me a minute. cheese. No, I got that.
Yeah, I've got one corroboration.
I mean, it's probably right.
I don't have my calculator.
That was my
at
fat
home,
fingers,
so-
come on.
There's pink ones over there all over the place. Go borrow one.
Steal one.
No, there isn't.
Take
Oh, yeah, there they are.
They're always over there. That's why I leave them there. So if you forget or you left it in your car or whatever, you always got one available. Now,
Yep, that's right.
good. So, if we did not pay our bill in full, if we did not pay the $400 in full, and again, folks, it doesn't matter how much, as long as it's not the $400, you owe the full interest based on the $431.50 worth of interest. So, how would we calculate interest if we had to? Exactly. It's I equals PRT. What was the principal?
431.
That's why you calculate average daily balance, folks. That's the P for the principal, and I equals PRT. What was the rate on my card? 22.9%. What am I going to write it as?
129.
Okay, thank you. That's R. Now what's T?
30.
30 over 360.
30. And remember that credit cards must use exact time, folks.
368. I think.
So always over 365. So in theory, if I didn't pay my bill in full, how much interest would I owe?
$8.12.
$8.12.
That's
It's like nothing.
Yeah. Which, if you think about it, is not all that bad compared to going to a payday loan shop where they charge you, 300% interest, and your interest payment would probably be $15 or $16 every 15 days, as opposed to every 30 days or so. All right. Running a balance on your credit card, it's not good, but there are much worse ways to borrow money. Always, what financial advisors will tell you when you start asking questions about how do I, save money for my future, the first thing they tell you is pay off all your credit card debt, period. That's always step one, right? After that, then they start saying, once you've paid off all your debt, then start saving whatever it is that you can. Whatever you can afford to put in the bank, do it, all right? But first steps are to quit paying $8 a month to borrow money from a credit card company.
It adds up.
Oh yeah, doesn't take long, does it?
I'm not gonna find out.
Very wise.
I
All right.
don't know.
Not bad? Again, very real world example right here. That's why it's a really good one. All right.
So probably a test question.
Oh, geez, really? You think?
What did I ever get?
This is usually the very first question. Is calculate the average daily balance, and the extra credit is find the finance charge. All right. So, how about this new credit card that I just took out? 9.9% APR.
This one's.
First cycle starts on May 5th and is a 28-day cycle. Here's my statement for the first month, or the first billing cycle, I should say. So, let me show you how I do these sorts of problems, just so that you can see an alternative method to doing these things, all right? So, dollars, days. Again, all you need is 2 columns and 1 extra row for the extra starting money that you get when you begin. Alright, so what I do when I fill out my table, folks, is that instead of trying to do it on a per row basis, I just go down the column on each side and not worry about the fact that those two go together. Alright? So, in other words, I'm going to do the days column first. What's my first number of days? From the 5th to the 10th. What's 10 minus 5? 5. What's 13 minus 10? What's 14 minus 13? What's 20 minus 14? What's 20 minus 20? What's 30 minus 20? What's my last number? Why 3? It's a 28-day cycle. I've used 25 days up here so far. This has to be a 3. Right? I do all of these first because then I don't screw up the subtraction of which one should I subtract when. Right? Now notice it has a weird thing in here because when I have two things on the same date, I get a 0. You just have to be careful with that. Okay? And now the way you do the dollars is, again, exactly the way you expected. What do I start with? 0, because there's nothing on the card. And now what do I do every row? You add or subtract accordingly, right? So you add 150, you add 40, you subtract 150 because you brought back whatever it is that you bought. Then you add 40, then you add 10, and then you add 800. There's your table. Much faster. You don't have to kind of keep track of the days and the dates while you're going, because these numbers, as long as you keep them in order, doesn't matter. They will be together. You don't have to think about it. All right?
It's amazing how you told us this now.
Exactly.
You know, 2 chapter, or, you know.
Understanding it is more important than being able to do it faster, folks, because this is actually really real. I mean, this is the way the way credit cards work is the way I've shown you, right? This is just a shorter way to do the sort of mind-crunching numbers that I'm going to ask you to do. All right? If you can see this and work it, great. And the cool thing about it is that now you can just do the same thing. Multiply the numbers and add. And just remember, when you do 0 times something, it's 0. Okay? For the life of me, I'll get people who tell me that 80 times 0 is 80.
Wow, they're winning.
Yeah. Just like, please don't do that, okay? All right? So then if you want to figure out what ADB is for this one, I need more room. Again, it's not like anything has changed, it's just that the numbers are now perhaps a few more of them, right? So 0 times 5 plus 150 times 3 plus 190 times 1 plus 40 times 6 plus, what's that next one? 80 times 0. Again, don't freak out when it's 0. Let it be 0. Plus 90 times 10 plus 890 times 3. And then divide that by 28. If you can see the numbers like that and they don't freak you out, you are more than welcome to take the mild shortcut that I have shown you when you go around calculating these values. Again, if you don't and you kind of go back to treating it like one step at a time, there's nothing wrong with that. It is the standard physical way of looking at it, so I don't have a problem with it. So, did you guys punch this out? What'd you get? Shouldn't be that big.
I came up with $158.93.
Same.
What did you say?
That's what I
Didn't
got.
either one.
Okay.
158.93. So what would I do to find the finance charge?
Simple interest.
158.93. Don't forget how to do 9.9%. 0.099. And then last but not least,
28 over 365.
don't forget the 28 over 365. So how much interest would I owe if I didn't make a payment on this card? Buck or something like that.
$1.21.
$1.21, I'll buy it.
It's $1.
So,
$1.20.
not too bad with chapter 14. Okay, so again, just remember the APR table, the little itty bitty tiny print, only for calculating APR. Okay? All right. So, how about chapter 15? Did I pull it up already? I don't think so.
You didn't lose the video from the chapter 14 or 15 notes. It said on like the website that you lost the notes, but did you lose the video too?
No, the video's in. I put the video up.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's. I didn't know where it was, but I found it. So.
You found the notes?
No, I found the video. I couldn't find the notes.
But you put the notes in from last year.
Yeah, but I put
Which
the
are
notes in.
almost exactly what he said,
Or
word to word,
okay.
because I wrote it in my,
Joke to joke.
I added it.
I do
It's
use the
like
same
word to
notes
word,
for
so you
you.
can use it.
I know.
I printed
But
it.
they're so good.
It's fine. Like I. So loud.
I was a little confused last night.
And it's funny too when you use the same like story in the same week.
Well, the stories apply almost every time around. All right, so how about this last one, folks? Let's do the chapter 15 stuff. We're going to buy 2 different houses. We're going to buy a $110,000 house. We're going to put 15% down and finance for 30 years at 6.5%. No, that's probably relatively standard, right?
Yeah.
Depends what you do.
Nah, what I did was not standard. Unfortunately. All right, so first step, how much did I borrow?
93,500.
How'd you figure that out?
I subtracted 16,500 from 110,000.
16,500, which of course would be the down payment, right? And so would you say 93.5?
Yep.
All right. And again, if you just did 110,000 times 0.85, that's perfectly okay too. If you want to find the down payment, again, perfectly okay to find it and subtract, whatever makes you happiest. Just make sure you get the right answer. All right, and how about the monthly payment then?
Do you want to know what it is, Robbie?
How do I calculate it? You know I don't care about what it really is. What I care about is what you find.
Finance divided by 1,000 times the table number.
Amount financed, the 93,500, divide by 1,000 times the table entry. Exactly the same as chapter 14, folks. Just use the bigger numbers or the bigger table on the lower half of page 45, right? So what's 6.5% for 30 years? 6.33. And so what does that wind up being monthly for our $110,000 house?
$591.86.
$591.86. Just a shade under $600. More than likely, you would probably write a $600 check every month, just because it's easier, right?
Just round up.
Yeah, exactly. Round up to $600. Pay a little extra. You probably end up paying, I would guess, 1.5 to 2 years less on your 30-year mortgage if you paid $600 a month. Maybe even 2.5 years.
If you're lucky.
Well, 6.5%, that's relatively high. All right, so how much interest are you going to wind up paying on this house if you make the minimum payment every month? Remember, what's interest again? Finance charge. How do you calculate it?
Non-monthly payments.
Amount of monthly payments. How many monthly payments are there?
360.
360. Please don't forget that there are 360 months in 30 years. Don't just multiply by 30.
And minus the amount financed.
Again, please make sure you subtract the amount financed and not the price. It's tempting to subtract the price because once you multiply those two numbers in the beginning, you're kind of like, oh shit. And you should say that a little bit, but follow the rules. Subtract the 93.5. How much interest did we wind up paying?
119, 560,
569.
70, 80.
80?
What? No.
60.
I got
Yeah, I
69,
got
60.
69.60?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, you wind up paying $120,000 of interest. Ouch. This is why it's painful to buy a house. Again, yes, you bought the house twice. So, how much did you really spend on this house?
136,069. 136? That's maybe a little bit.
229,569.60.
Price plus interest.
Yeah.
229,569.60. Or you can add up all the payments. Adding up all the payments is the 16,500 plus the 360 times 591.86. Either way, you should see that you paid way more money than you feel like you should have to buy that $110,000 house.
How life works.
It is how life works, folks. And it's also why, if at all possible, have as much money down at the beginning as you can. So if you guys win some sort of a lottery and get $40,000 or $50,000, don't just blow it. New cars suck. They're the worst investment in the entire planet.
Mhm.
As soon as you buy it, you lose 10% of it, period, right? Buy a nice, good used car and buy a really expensive house. That's everybody's advice. Is it always the best advice? I don't know, but it's safe.
Unless you have money for both.
Well, yeah, true. I mean, if you're Bill Gates and you can go buy an island, you should probably go buy an island, right? But, you know. All right, so not too bad. All right, so how do you amortize that?
This is what confused me.
Okay, that's good that we're going over it. When you amortize a mortgage, folks, first row is always however much you borrowed. There will always be at least 4 columns, folks, for the payment, the interest, the principal paid, and then the principal left. Okay? So you should really think of this as the principal paid, and think of this as the principal left, or after, whatever. So, what are our payments?
591.86.
$591.86. And if I didn't say you were doing anything funky, how much did you pay the next month?
91.86.
Okay, good. Right? Don't piss away easy points. If the monthly payment's $591.86, for God's sakes, pay $591.86 each month. Take your points and run. Now, how do we find interest in a mortgage? It's simple. Yeah. It's I equals PRT. How much do we borrow? What's our principal? 93,500. What's our interest rate?
6.5.
0.065. Thank you. And how much time are we borrowing this money in 1 month?
1 over 12.
1 month, which is 1 over 12 years. 1/12. So how much interest did we owe for the first month?
$506.46.
$506.46.
Yeah.
That goes into the interest column. So your $591.86, the first thing it does is pays off the $506.46 of interest that you owed. Ouch.
It's like nothing compared to all the interest.
So how much of your house did you actually buy?
$85.40.
The difference between those, you paid a whole $85.40 off on your house. Woohoo! Go team!
So you just subtract those two.
Yep, you just subtract those two. That's all you got to do. Because your payment pays the interest first, and what's ever left, that's how much gets taken off of your principal. So this number comes off of the principal. So subtract these two, right? 93,414.60. And now rinse and repeat 360 times.
Oh, hell to the no.
Which is why I'm nice and only give you 3 or 4 rows to do instead of 300 or 400 rows to do.
That's a nice man.
I am nice. I agree.
Look at, now you want some praise of how nice you are, right? Yeah.
Of
okay.
course. Come on. Tell me how nice I am. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right. So, what's going to be the next row?
Interest. You use the 93 for 1460.
Exactly. And folks, this is literally how it's done. This is how the bank has to do every month. Okay? They'll take whatever's left, 93, 4, 14, 60, times 0.065, times 1/12, and they'll figure out how much interest you owe again. What did we drop down to?
506. Actually, it's 505.99. So would you round it to 506? Then?
What's after the 9?
An 8. So you would. Okay.
Yes.
I just want to make sure that
You round correctly.
Okay.
Yeah, so whatever the rounding tells you to do, you do. So if it's 505.99 and you have to round up, it rounds up to 506. So what did we do the next month, folks? We paid it a whole extra 40 cents.
Mm-hmm.
Go team.
Yeah, we paid 46 cents to be exact.
True, 46 cents. Wow.
Hey.
So the next month, we bought $85.86 worth of our house. We maybe
We're
own
getting
a
somewhere.
square foot of land now. Maybe.
Not even.
Again, what do you do with that number?
Subtract it from the 93, 414.60.
Exactly. What's my next number?
93, 328.74.
Rinse and repeat.
It wouldn't be that bad for a bank to give someone a number. They never have to change the payment to make sure the payment is right for whatever some games looks. They can easily put it on like an Excel program.
Oh, yeah. And they do. Yeah. The thing about Excel, though, is that Excel doesn't, when it displays the numbers, it displays them rounded, but doesn't officially round them. You actually have to muck with the numbers a little bit to make sure that the tenths of a penny are actually removed from the formula. It does take a little bit of work.
I guess it's pretty
Yeah, that's the only difference. Because I actually did this for one of my loans, and I noticed that their table and my table were off by like 4 cents after about 6 or 7 years. And that's because I didn't round off the tenths of a penny. And so it made a difference one month. And once it made a 1 penny difference, that 1 penny started to become a bigger and bigger deal every month. Until it actually made a difference. Alright, so anyways, one more time, folks, what was the interest the next month?
505.53.
Look at that. 47 cents more this time. Woohoo! So what did we get up to? 86?
33.
33. And so what are we down to?
93, 242, and 41 cents. 41.
1 cent, yes. And then last but not least, our final row.
505.06.
505.06.
Yes.
Another 47 cents.
86.80.
And so what are we down to after 4 months?
93,155.61 cents.
That's probably the most depressing 4 rows of a table you've ever seen. Very true 4 rows of tables in a mortgage, right? I mean, you've paid basically $2,400, right? $600 a month, more or less. And how much of the house did you buy?
About $400.
Three or
No,
400,
350 some dollars.
350 some bucks. Yeah, mildly nauseating. Welcome to life. All right, so again, be careful with this. If the numbers are a little bit different for different mortgages, be careful, right? So just be careful. Not every mortgage is 30-year mortgage. Make sure you read the problem and figure out how many years it is. So, how much do we borrow in this next purchase? Again, 20% of 200,000 is 40,000 bucks. So we borrowed 160,000. What's our monthly payment going to be? What was my table entry again?
8.06.
8.06. What did you say that was? 12? Obviously, folks, we're buying a more expensive house, and we're financing it for 5 less years, and the interest rate was higher, and you're going to be making a huge monthly payment. Ouch. But,
But,
nice thing about paying your house in less numbers of years, the interest goes down. What's going to be the interest for this house? How many months in 25 years? Please be careful with that.
20 years.
Oh, was it 20?
20 years.
Ours
No,
says
it's
20.
20%, 25 years.
Ours says 20 years.
Ours says
20
20.
years.
Oh, did you guys just say 20?
Yeah.
Oh, how boring.
How boring.
Good job on that one.
Okay, 20 years. Sorry, how many months are there in 20 years?
240.
240. What do I subtract?
The
No,
amount financed.
The amount financed. So how much interest did I wind up paying? $149,504. Note, folks, are we paying double for the house anymore?
Nope.
No. This is why paying a mortgage off in 20 years is potentially a good idea, right? Obviously, much less in interest overall. Unfortunately, of course, what happened to your monthly payment? Yeah, it's a little harsh. But if you can do it, great. If you can't, well,
No, you end up paying more interest.
well, that's because the other one was only $110,000. This one was $200,000. So what did we really spend on this house?
349,000.
$349,504. Not double, which is nice. All right, and let's not do this so that we have enough time to ask questions on the homework. You should amortize this. Do it on your own time.
Extra 500.
Don't forget to add the extra 500 in that second one. All right, so that's the review for chapter 14 and 15. Were there any questions on the chapter 14 or 15 homework?
Number 14 on chapter 15.
Number 14 in chapter 15.
Something. That's a long
Oh, that was a long one.
That's how I picked it.
Yeah, I pictured so.
This is the one where you 8.5%, 9.5%,
Yeah.
10.5%. Yeah, those are fun, right?
So we get
No.
3 questions per chapter, right?
per chapter.
You were right.
All right, so what was the problem on number 14 again? What was it? It was like a $60,000 house or something?
Yeah, so Harriet Marcus is concerned about the financing of a home. She saw Sorry,
Ow.
Laura. Okay.
She saw
Saw
our
an
house.
owl?
She saw the amount of money she was paying on now.
That sells for $50,000.
And she put 20% down or something?
Yes.
Yeah, she put 20% down. What will her monthly payments be? At A, 25 years, 11.5%.
25 years, 11.5%.
B, 25 years at 12.5%.
12.5%.
13.5%. 15.5%.
Just 15.
Just
Or
15?
no, 15, I'm sorry.
Okay.
My bad.
Okay.
What is the total cost of interest over the cost of the loan for each assumption?
No problem. We'll do those on the way.
E, what is the savings and interest cost between 11.5 and 15?
11.5 to 15. Huh?
Then F, if Harriet uses 30 years instead of 25 for both 11.5 and 15, what is the difference in interest?
Okay. That's it?
Yeah, so
Oh, so this is easy. So, monthly interest. Alright? So, how do you find the monthly payment when you're, well, first of all, what's the amount financed, folks?
40,000.
And what's 40,000 divided by 1,000?
40.
40. 40,000 divided by 1,000 is 40. So you're always going to take 40 times whatever the table value. What is the table value for 11.5%, 25 years? 10.17. 7? What's 40 times 10.17? 406.80. Okay? Because the $40,000 you're borrowing, you're going to divide that by 1,000, which just gives you the 40 every time. And then you just have to multiply that 40 times whatever the table value is. That's going to get you the monthly payment, right? So, if you did it for 12.5%, what's the table value? 10.91. What's 40 times 10.91? 43640. What's 13.5%?
1166.
11.66. What is that? 466.40. I'll buy it. And what's 15%?
Would you say 15%?
Yeah, 25 years.
12.1, 12.81.
12.81.
Yes.
So what is that? 5 something?
512.40.
512.40. Okay, not too bad. There's the monthly payments. How do you find interest?
Finance.
How many months are there in 25 years? 300, right? So 300 times 406.80 minus 40,000. What does that equal?
$27. No.
That was aggressive.
Subtracting 50,000, not 40,000.
What?
Yeah.
I'm subtracting 50,000 instead of 40.
You gotta subtract the amount financed, not the price.
Yeah.
82,040.
82,040
Yes.
straight up.
Yes.
Okay. Rinse and repeat, folks. What's 300 times 436.40 minus 40,000? 99.20. What's 300 times 466.40 minus 40,000? 99,920 again.
I mean, as long as I'm right, I won't say anything.
Well, it sounds right. It should be about. It's 300 times $30 more. That's $9,000. So it should be $9,000 more, right?
113,720.
113,720 for the 15%.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. There's monthly and interest cranked out relatively quickly. How much do you save in 11.5 to 15%? What's the difference?
31,600.
31,680 is what you said?
Yes.
And if you did it for 30 years, note the numbers change a little bit because you have to go through the whole 30-year table instead of the 25-year table. But what did you guys get when you cranked it out?
11.5 savings.
Yeah.
11.5. I got you paid $1,200 more, but with the 15%, you paid $1,920 less. Does that make sense?
No.
Okay.
He said,
Well, because I think
I agree.
I think the problem just wants the difference rate between the 11% of interest you would pay and then the 15, but for 30 years instead of 25, right?
Right. So it's just trying to figure out what's the difference in interest.
Oh.
if you paid it in 30 years at 11.5% versus 30 years at 15%. So just do the exact same thing we did up above in E, except do it for 30 years instead of for 25 years. Now, we've already done the calculations for 11.5 and 15. At 25 years, you actually have to redo those for 30 years in order to make it work. And don't forget that, remember when you go to 30 years that it's 360 months, not 300, because it's an extra 5 years. So it does take a little bit more work. I don't want to go through all the rigmarole, so let's just look at the heck up and write it down.
I mean, you can put all the answers up, that'd be nice.
That one works out to be 39,456.
456? Bless you. Bless you.
Alright, so normally, just so that you guys know, when I grade this problem, honestly, the only thing I look for are the 4 monthly payments, and if I see that you have the 4 monthly payments correctly for the first 4 parts of the problem, I give you the credit for the whole problem. It's too much of a
It's
pain.
a long answer.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's way too much of a pain in the ass for me to look at all those numbers, so screw that. As soon as I can see enough that you're doing it basically correctly, I'm like, yes, you get the point. Boom, done. Done. Sadly, no, on the test. So I wouldn't ask this kind of a question on the test because it wastes too much time, right? Alright, so another one from chapter 14 or 15?
16 on chapter 15.
16 on chapter 15? Alright, which one is that one?
I don't
Can we read it?
know.
Sure, sure.
Daniel and Jan agree to pay $560,000 for owning a home
Okay.
with a $60,000 down payment.
Okay.
30-year mortgage, fixed rate, 6%. Question A, how much is their monthly payment? And then after the first payment, what would the balance of the principal? What would be the balance of the principal, excuse me?
Balance after 1 month.
My thing is that there's not 6% on the chart.
Yeah.
You have to look in the book.
Oh.
It's in the book.
6%'s in the book.
It's in the book.
If you
I
look
know,
at
I was thinking the same thing, but it's in the book if you look.
Table 15.1.
Yeah,
I just gave up and looked at it.
page 376, it's right there.
So there won't be a 6%
No,
on the test,
no.
correct?
Not at all.
Good.
Because that's pretty messed up.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do that to you. Turns out, folks, that the table value for 30 years at 6%
Six.
is exactly 6,
6.
which is sort of cool.
Yeah.
So the idea is that you would take 500,000
Over 1,000.
over 1,000 times 6, and the monthly payment's going to be $3,000.
Yep. You do.
Yeah, what a cheap house. And the balance after 1 month. So in other words, folks, how much interest do you pay in the first month?
That's where you take the 500,000
500,000
times 0.06
times 0.06
times 1 over 1, or times 1/12,
times 1/12 because it's 1 month.
right? And you come up with 2,500.
$2,500. So the $3,000 is going to pay $2,500 in interest first. So how much of the house do they buy? $500. So how much is left?
499,500.
Now they only owe $499,000.
Just 1 month, come on.
Hey, that went down a lot more than the,
You also have
$100,000
like
house did.
$300,000 more to pay off.
Yeah, and the monthly payment was only 6 or 7 times as much. Woo! Awesome. So, not too bad. Just numbers can be big. And I will obviously only give you numbers that are in the tables on the test. That was specifically.
That was the only thing for
That one was pretty bad. I mean, I was looking for.
Yeah. I've actually sent him an email saying, would you please change that number to anything else? And he was like, oh yeah, I will in the next version. And he didn't on this one. Yeah, okay.
Oh, can you do number 16 from chapter 14 as well?
Yes.
Okay. We can crank that one out really quick.
Hopefully.
16, chapter 14.
So Bill bought a $500 rocking chair.
500.
Yeah.
Okay.
The terms of her revolving charge are 1.5% on the unpaid balance for the previous month.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
She pays $100 per month and completes a schedule for the first 3 months, like table 14.3. Be sure to use the U.S. rule.
Yeah, whatever. The U.S. rule. Like somehow we're special. All right, so it's basically the same as amortizing your mortgage, folks. So
Plus,
pay interest, principal paid, principal left. We're starting at $500.
So, because it's, what got me on this one was it says here on the unpaid balance
Uh-huh.
from the previous month. She doesn't, right?
What do you mean?
She does not have a balance from the previous month.
Oh no, she does have a balance from the previous month. It's
Where's-
$500.
Okay.
So it's the $500, right? So she's paying $100 per month, right?
Mm-hmm.
The interest is just this 1.5% per month, okay? The 1.5% is including the time. So it's really just going to be interest equals $500 times 0.015, okay? It's not telling you that it's 1.5% per month and that you're borrowing it per month. The 1.5% is the monthly charge, which is why this problem is a little bit weird, but whatever. So you just take 500 times straight up 0.015. So was that 750?
Mm-hmm.
So you owe $7.50 in interest. If you pay $7.50 in interest, how much of the chair or whatever else she was buying? $92.50. Subtract that from how much she owes. So exactly what we were doing on that was chapter 15, amortization problems. It applies to everything in chapter 14. Okay? It's just that in chapter 14, a lot of times they tie the interest rate and the month together into one month number. That's why a lot of times I don't ask this specific question on the homework, but it's a good one to see just because it's how they do it a lot of times for short-term mortgage or short-term loans. But it's really the same thing, right? So the next month you do the same thing. You say, oh, what's 407.50 times 0.015? What was that?
611.
$6.11. So we have to pay $6.11 in interest. $93.89. Subtract the $93.89.
313.61.
313.61.
313.61.
Rinse and repeat. 313.61 times 0.015. How much interest in the last month?
470.
470. Awesome.
95.30.
95.30.
218.31.
218.31. There you go. I will not give you one like this on the test, folks, just so that you know. You will not amortize anything from chapter 14, only from chapter 15 for me. Alright, so please get me the homework for chapter 14 and 15 by Thursday. If you have it done, that's great.
Yeah, we gotta make some corrections.
yeah, right? That's what I was just thinking.